Hello everybody, NEGTV is with you, and today you will learn the main news of the games. While all the players are getting ready for game and craving a lot of new trailers and details of upcoming new products, Bethesda, together with ID Software, held QuakeCon 2022. No loud announcements were made, the event turned out pretty quiet. Except that ID Software announced it was working on the next big game. There are no details, development is clearly at a very early stage. For the rest, it was reported that a pack of old creations from these two companies will appear in the PC Game Pass, from Return to Castle Wolfenstein to the Elder Scrolls Adventures, Redguard. The sale of Bethesda games has begun in the Epic Games Store and Steam, which is also relevant for those who have not yet bought Skyrim. And on the occasion of QuakeCon, the Epic service is also giving away the Doom 64 shooter for free, which was exclusive to the Nintendo 64 console in 1997. After 23 years, it was re-released on modern platforms. The Austin division of Arcane held a panel on the shooter Redfall, where the developers discussed various aspects of the project. They said that at least there will be no sudden screamers or anything like that in the game, but there is definitely plenty of blood and horror here. As for vampires, it turned out that not hapless citizens who have gone over to the dark side, but a group of human entrepreneurs who have become monsters after a conscious transformation. Thus, their vampire state is considered rather a metamorphosis of the inner self. Well, that is, it should not be a pity to kill them. Along with this, the studio stated that Redfall will have the largest world that Arcane has ever created. The exact scale has yet to be revealed, but as team director Harvey Smith noted, just one section of the Redfall city map with a farm is larger than the entire Talos I space station from Prey in 2017. Plus, it should be noted that unexpectedly, Quake Champions got out of early access. The game had been in beta for the past 5 years, and it already looked like it would be stuck in it forever. At the same time, there was no announcement about this at QuakeCon. It's just that the fans, having gone to Steam, found that the early access dice was gone. The shooter is free, but during its existence, some huge audience did not get hold of it. Usually simultaneous online barely reaches 1,000 people. Although the reviews are mostly positive and is very actively growing content. Probably, the low popularity depresses the authors so much that they do not even want to mention the project once again. The biggest blockbuster of the year so far, Elden Ring, has already been bought 16,600,000 times. We're talking about digital copies and discs. This data is called by the publishing house Bandai Namco, for which Elden Ring has become one of the most successful releases in history. Just so you understand, Cyberpunk 2077, the biggest project of 2020 to 2021, reached 18 million copies in a year and a half. Elden Ring almost got to that point in just 4 months. If you have not yet joined the brainchild of From Software, then this must be urgently corrected. As you already know, the zombie shooter Dead Island 2 has come to life. The game was announced in 2014, but all these years it was in an incomprehensible half-dead state. Techland either froze it, then restarted development, then transferred it to another studio, then restarted everything again. But in early August, it turned out that the release of Dead Island 2 will take place very soon, before April 1st, 2023. And in December of this, as part of the Game Awards, we can be pleased with a re-announcement. And here is another confirmation. Already from the Amazon store. He posted a project page with new screenshots and a release date, February 3rd, 2023. For some time, the site even accepted pre-orders, but now, of course, they are closed, like the page itself. Judging by the Amazon listing, the game will be released on the previous generation consoles. The store has a version page for the PlayStation 4. Moreover, you probably won't have to wait for the announcement before the Game Awards. Amazon's error hints that the presentation will take place already at QuakeCon. The Chinese studio Game Science, after a year of silence, showed the current build of the role-playing action Black Myth, Wukong. First, we have a 6-minute cutscene in Unreal Engine 5. It's a peaceful yet cryptic conversation between several of the game's characters. One of the girls seems to be holding a tame spider, but the rest of the characters are not bothered by this. Judging by the final video, the spiders will be involved in the upcoming ceremony. The second video is gameplay. It was recorded with ray tracing and DLSS enabled. In 8 minutes, we will have time to visit in the form of a fly, walk through dense forests and fight the dragon boss. During the battle, the protagonist will take on an unusual combat form, but this will not help him. Wukong is expected to premiere no earlier than 2024 on PC and unnamed consoles. As a primary source, we recall the Chinese novel Journey to the West Acts. Recently, a game about an armed squirrel with a gun has gone viral on the internet. The videos with it attract a lot of attention of the audience, which is very amused by this contrast. Everything around looks very realistic, there is a semblance of plausible physics, and at the same time our squirrel carries a giant gun in comparison with it, which it persistently threatens people. It turns out that the author of the project is inspired by such masterpieces of the gaming industry as Shadow of the Colossus and Yakuza. The name of the developer is Daniel D'Entremont. According to him, Shadow of the Colossus impressed him precisely with the confrontation between a small hero and giants. Only the people themselves act as giants. Even in the creation of Team ICO there is a cool mechanic of climbing on your opponents. We haven't seen anything like this yet in Squirrel with a gun, but as Daniel says, a similar mechanic is currently in development. From Yakuza, Daniel's game gets some crazy action with a fast-paced cinematic feel. But as for the plot, it is not yet clear, the author has not yet come up with it. There is an idea to talk about how a squirrel sneaks into a top-secret experimental laboratory, grabs a very important drive, it just happens to be shaped like an acorn, and swallows it. That is why agents pursue her throughout the game. Maybe at the same time, the squirrel will have abilities in the spirit of Jason Bourne. Or maybe she will remain just a squirrel who got a gun somewhere. Arsenal, by the way, will be extensive. In addition to a pistol, our rodent will have a shotgun and a rocket launcher, and the game will allow you to arrange a rocket jump. There is a possibility that we will be able to customize our hero, for example, turn a squirrel into a chipmunk or a ferret. Also in the plans there are a variety of costumes. As you understand, the creation process is at a very early stage and the project may change dramatically in the final. The demonic bagel Cult of the Lamb is selling very well. Just a week was enough for him to get to 1 million copies. The authors from the massive Monster Studio thank the fans for their activity and promise to please those with updates, both patches and new content. All this will be free. Bonsai Collective has announced Luna Abyss, a space horror shooter with bullet hell elements. The latter means such a situation when a lot of shells fly at once in the face of the hero. The protagonist is a prisoner who has been sentenced to explore an abandoned megastructure that lies deep beneath the surface of a false moon. Our adventurer needs to recover the forgotten technology of the abyss and the lost colony it consumed. But every movement of the prisoner will be watched by an artificial prison guard named Eileen. Development is underway for computers, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series. Manor Lords has released for GTA 5 a graphical modification Natural Vision Evolved, which makes the game graphics more realistic. This is a fairly well-known and expected long-term construction among its audience, announced at the beginning of 2020. At the moment, the mod is in beta and will continue to improve. If you put it, then the quality of roads and sidewalks will significantly increase, and realistic lighting and reflections will be added. Weather effects will look more authentic, vegetation has been replaced with a more realistic one. Volumetric clouds, animations for advertising signs and screens have also been added. Building windows now look like they have rooms behind them, The mod turned out to be so popular that the site on which it was posted even lay down for a while due to too much influx of people. Bethesda and Microsoft are definitely not planning on hosting a fresh Starfield demo at Gamescom, although initially there was a mention of it in the Bethesda blog. Only the old video will be shown at the exhibition, the same one that we saw 2 months ago at the joint presentation of Bethesda and Xbox. Many people had big questions about it, especially because of obvious performance problems. The game constantly slowed down. The mention of Redfall, which we talked about at the beginning of this issue, also disappeared from the same blog until recently. Arcane was going to bring the game to Germany. The Embracer Group, which owns the THQ Nordic publishing house, held a presentation for investors and analysts on the latest financial report. In particular, it was announced there that pre-orders for Saints Row were doing much more actively than expected. A week before the release, which is being prepared for the 23rd, their number turned out to be at the level of 118% of the planned one. But more interestingly, the Embracer Group bought out Middle-earth Enterprises, gaining an extensive library of rights to John Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And we are talking not only about games. Embracer has all the permissions to shoot a new feature film. The holdings management clarifies that it can dedicate a feature film. One of the cult characters of the universe, Gandalf, Aragorn, Gollum, Galadriel, or, for example, Eowyn. The Embracer Group has never touched the film industry before. Although she has the appropriate resources, not only money, as part of the holding there are studios with film production experience that shoot trailers and commercials. In addition to shooting the film, Embracer can now also produce various official merchandise based on Tolkien's works. The deal cost the owners of THQ Nordic $770 million. To clarify, Middle-earth Enterprises, formerly known as Tolkien Enterprises, is the company that owns the exclusive rights to The Lord of the Rings throughout the world, with a few exceptions, for example, the Silmarillion. Without her, it was impossible to release any of the games in the franchise, and she also had to acquire the rights to film adaptations. In 2017, Amazon paid her $250 million to film a prequel series that is set to premiere on September 2nd. So for the Swedish giant, this is another impressive acquisition that will surely have a serious impact on the business.